All right, guys, we are back and we are ready for the next chapter in Zoe and Sassafras. Remember, late at night, she heard the magical doorbell ring. She ran or bolted across the lawn, and there she found Pip, the magical frog, and he had a rainbow ball that was the size of a soccer ball, and it was a rainbow, and they figured out it was a seed pod, which means it has seeds inside. Remember how we talked about how seeds spread and so they can keep growing, and they were going to come up with a plan today on how to make sure it keeps growing and so they can take care of it and maybe figure out where it goes. Chapter 3, all about plants. The next morning, Mom, Sassafras, and I crowded around the glowing seed pod. The pod continued the beautiful shimmering cycle we'd seen the night before. Red slowly turned into orange, then changed to yellow, and so on until it had gone through all the rainbow colors and started over again. That must be so cool. Can you imagine having a rainbow soccer ball that changed colors? It would be awesome. I could stare at this all day, Mom said. Me too, but we should get working on getting it back to the right place. I don't know if keeping it here could hurt it somehow. I don't want anything bad to happen to it. Mom patted my head. So responsible. You're right. Mom grabbed one of her old science journals and flipped it open. Let's see here. Pip was right about magical plants being rare. I've heard that from several magical creatures. The only magical plant I've ever seen was this one. Mom turned the journal around so I could see. Are those purple, furry fruits? I reached a finger out to touch the photo. Oh, they're so soft. Every time we take a photo of something magical, the photo keeps a little bit of the magic. So even though it was just a photo of a giant purple plant, I could feel the fur on the fruit. Can you imagine if you took pictures and you could feel it or smell it? That'd be crazy. Yep, they are, but the seeds from that plant are inside those fruits, not seed pods. So this pod is definitely a different species. How are we going to figure out where it came from, I asked. Mom raised an eyebrow at me. Maybe we could read about real plants to see if there's anything similar. Mom motioned with her hands to keep going. And, we could look at maps to see the different sorts of places around here a plant might grow. Mom grinned. You have some great ideas to get you started. Unfortunately, I have a ton of work to do. Do you think you and Sassafras can figure it out? I'll be inside if you need me. I popped my thinking goggles on my head and nodded confidently. Go work. We've got this. Zoe has thinking goggles that she likes to put on her head, and she thinks if she leaves them on her head, it helps her come up with good ideas. Do you see them right there? She's got her thinking goggles on her head. Chapter 4. From where? I set a big serious-looking book down on the table next to the seed pod. Okay, Sassafras, I'm going to read about different kinds of seeds in this botany book. Maybe there's a real-life seed pod that looks like this, and then we can get a hint about where this one might grow. Sassafras ignored me and instead sniffed all around the seed pod. He reached out a paw and bopped it softly, and then harder, and the seed pod rolled away from him, then boinked into the wall and rolled back at him. Sassafras hissed and jumped backwards with his tail puffed up. I think it scared Sassafras. I caught the seed ball before it rolled off the table and laughed. I tapped him gently on the nose with one finger. Why don't you try and stay out of trouble while I read? Sassafras grumbled and jumped down from the table. While Sassafras explored spider webs in the corner of the barn, I read about seed pods and fruit seeds and flying seeds and dangling seeds called catkins. I liked saying that word because it reminded me of cats, but nothing sounded at all like our rainbow pod. Guys, look at the hard work Zoe's doing. She has a question and she's taking all the time she can to be able to read to figure it out. Ugh, Sassafras, reading is not working. What do I do? Sassafras gave a little meow and began pacing the barn. I joined him and tapped my thinking goggles. It made a fun sound, so I started tapping out a little beat. That made me want to hum, and the humming quickly turned into a little song. Oh, seed pod, at your colors we are odd. I paused at the table. Wait a second. Was the seam getting bigger on the seed pod? Maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me. I shrugged and kept singing. This is really kind of odd. Then I jumped a little. The seam definitely looked bigger. Whoa! I scrambled to come up with more words to my song. At your surface, my cat pod, and a magical creature clawed. I think you live somewhere abroad. If I knew where, I would applaud. All at once, the two halves of the seed pod sprung open. We peered inside at a couple dozen shiny black seeds as perfectly round and about the same size as a bouncy ball. Probably about that big. I reached in and pulled out a handful. Sassafras and I silently stared, and then I felt a frog on my head. "Whoa, Zoe, it's open," Pip exclaimed. He jumped down to my wrist and touched a seed with his webbed hand. "You left the barn door open, so I just let myself in. What happened?" There they are. There's Pip on her hand, and they're checking out the seeds inside the pod. It opened up while Zoe was singing. Do you think magical plants like music? We'll have to see. I think the pod liked my singing. I kept going, and it popped open. Just then, Mom walked in with a sandwich. "Do I hear my favorite frog?" Pip hopped over to Mom, and we told her everything we'd figured out so far. "Well, this certainly makes things interesting," she said. "You couldn't figure out any hints on where the seed pod might grow from reading? Can you think of something other than reading we could try?" I tapped my trusty thinking goggles. "Do you think we could... would it be safe to use some of the seeds in an experiment?" "Ah, good thinking," said Mom. "That's what I would try next. We have a good number of seeds. What sort of experiment do you have in mind?" Once I explained my idea to Mom, it was time to get to work. Guys, Zoe had a question. How are these seeds going to be able to grow best? And she decides she's going to do a science experiment. So chapter 5 is experiment. Let's see what Zoe does to do an experiment and see if we do the same things when we do an experiment. I dashed back into the barn. Sassafras lay sleeping with Pip curled up on top of him. I tossed my science journal onto the table. I meant to do it quietly, but it made a big slamming noise instead. Sassafras jumped up, launching Pip into the air. "Ah!" yelled Pip as he flew across the room. "Whoops! Sorry, guys." "Now that I'm wide awake," said Pip, as he brushed himself off, "you might as well tell me what you figured out." I made a list of all the places around here that I thought the plant might grow. Mom had a few ideas to add, and now we have so many great things to try. Rocks, water, sand, soil. Here, I've got a whole list written down. Those are all ideas of where they think that the seeds might be able to grow. Pip looked over what I'd written and scratched his head. "So how will this tell us where our plant is from again?" If we can figure out what our seeds grow best in, that will give us a clue. Like if the seeds start growing on rocks, we know the pod probably came from the top of one of the mountains, or any other place around here that has lots of rocks all in one spot. Pip nodded. "Oh, now I get it. So first we need to try all these things, and then we'll use that answer to figure out where we should take the pod?" "Exactly. I want to get these seeds back to the right place right away. I don't know if they're going to do something weird like dry out, or I don't know what. So let's get cracking." I grabbed my science journal and a pen and started writing as I spoke. First, we start with our question. We start with questions too when we do science experiments. Question: what will our mystery seeds grow in? And next is our hypothesis. That's what we do too. So here is where we make a guess. What do you think, Pip? Where will our mystery seeds grow? Pip tapped his chin. "I think the mystery seeds will grow in water because the seed pod looks like a Merhor stone, and those are usually underwater." "Oh, great guess, Pip." I wrote down his guess and then added mine. Hypothesis. "Zoe, I think the mystery seeds will grow in potting soil because that's where most of the plants grow that I know of." Okay, now we need to figure out all the materials or supplies we need. "You said sand, water, rocks, and I don't remember the others," Pip shrugged. "Oh, and soil and the mix of sand and moss Mom told me to try. Here we go. Materials: cups, dirt from our yard, potting soil, stream water, sand, moss mix, rocks, mystery seeds, labels, and markers." That's a long list of supplies. I'm glad she wrote it down in her science journal. I tapped my pencils on my lip. "How many seeds do we have?" Pip carefully counted and announced, 24. That's a lot of seeds from that pod. Okay, perfect. We want to try 6 different ways to grow them. So with 24 seeds, we can put 4 seeds in each container. Pip made 6 little piles of 4 seeds each. Okay, I can get pots and labels from inside. Potting soil from the greenhouse, rocks from our driveway, stream water from the stream. But what about sand? Pip asked. And moss? Mom said peat moss would be the best to try, but I forgot to ask her where to find that. Pip gave a joyful jump. I know where to find moss in the forest. I can also get the stream water. Perfect. Now we just need to figure out where to find sand. Sassafras went running for the barn door. He stopped the door, looked over his shoulder, and gave an annoyed meow. Oh, you want me to follow you? Sassafras led the way out to my sandbox. Brilliant. Good kitty. I scratched under his chin and he purred. Wait here. I'll be right back with the cups. Several minutes later, Pip, Sassafras, and I met up in the barn. Pip panted in front of a small pile of moss and a bit of stream water. Now what? Now we write out our steps. In an experiment, it's important to change just one thing and keep everything else the same. The same, chirped Pipe. Your mom is always saying that. I laughed and nodded. She is. We're changing the stuff. We are trying to grow the seeds in, so we should use the same pots, the same number of stuff in each pot. We should always keep them in the same place, and I'm pretty sure all seeds need water to grow, so we'll add the same small amount of water to each of them. So remember, the only thing different they're going to change is what it's growing in. It'll have the same amount of sun, it'll have the same amount of water, it'll have the same size pot, so they know that it is just what they're growing in that's helping them to grow. Next, she writes down procedure. That's the order of things she's going to do. 1, get 6 plastic pots and label each. Yard dirt, plotting soil, stream water, sand, sand/moss mix, and rocks. Step number 2, fill each pot halfway with the material. Step 3, place 4 seeds in a square shape in each cup. Step 4, add 1 teaspoon of water to each cup. Step 5, check on seeds every day. With Pip and Sassafras both helping, we got through the seed planting pretty quickly. As we stood back to admire our work, Pip let out a monstrous yawn. Oh, I think my work here is done. Time for a nap. I'll see you tomorrow. Sassafras and I give Pip a quick snuggle. See you tomorrow. Chapter 6. Nothing. Guys, what do you think the plant's going to grow best in? Is it going to be the sand? Is it the water? Is it the stones or the rocks? Maybe it's the sand and moss mixture. I don't know. Do you have a hypothesis? Do you think she came up with a good list of steps to do or a procedure to make sure it always stays the same? All right, we'll have to wait and see what happens tomorrow. See you guys tomorrow, guys.